I'm calling this meeting of the Town of Silver City Council to order. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda requiring action is proclamations, and we have two proclamations tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and announce what they are, and then we'll make the presentation. The first proclamation: since October 24th through the 28th, 2016, is Pro Bono Week. The town would like to recognize this with a proclamation. The second proclamation: since November 13th through the 19th, 2016, is Nurse Practitioner Week. The town would also like to recognize this with a proclamation. Would Catherine L. Wallace, for the first proclamation, please come forward? Whereas the Town Council has been advised that New Mexico is ranked 50th in poverty, with 1 in 5 of the state's 2,045,535 people living far below the poverty level. People living in poverty experience a greater degree of legal problems, the majority of which are civil matters, divorce, child support, custody, domestic violence, grandparents' rights, kinship, guardianship, and issues arising from CYFD actions, consumer matters, mental health, and substance abuse issues, and problems in gaining access to services, employment issues, and pension matters, and housing issues. And whereas each year the low-income persons and elders in the town of Silver City lack access to legal assistance for their legal problems that are often critical to their safety and independence, forcing them to resolve complex legal problems on their own. And whereas the need for legal aid and pro bono services in New Mexico is dire, funding for low-income New Mexicans who need civil legal assistance has not yet been met, with the consequences being a lack of access to justice, which is devastating for the poor and which weakens our democratic society as a whole. And whereas the Town Council has been advised that 72% of the members of the legal community in the 6th Judicial District donate their time and talents in the form of free legal services each year, a huge unmet need for legal assistance remains for the disadvantaged in our area. And whereas, sponsored by the Access to Justice Commission and the American Bar Association, with support from local pro bono committees statewide, Pro Bono Week will educate the public about the extensive work New Mexico lawyers are doing when they donate their time to improve the lives of vulnerable community members, and will encourage more individuals in the legal community to get involved in pro bono work and to help financially support the legal aid system. And whereas the Town Council has been advised that Pro Bono Week 2016 will feature legal clinics throughout the state, assisting New Mexicans who greatly need this assistance but cannot afford to pay for that help, and will also feature recognition events throughout the state of New Mexico, honoring lawyers and judges for making a difference in New Mexico. Now, therefore, I, Ken Ladner, Mayor of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico. In view of the inherent value of this, do hereby proclaim October 24 to 28, 2016 to be Pro Bono Week, and urge all residents to recognize the contributions of our legal community helping those most in need. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to make a few comments?
Just briefly.
Can you stand next to the mayor?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I just want to let everybody know, we try to put together a meaningful pro bono event every year This year it's on Thursday, day after tomorrow, at the Global Resource Center at Western. We're going to be there from 10 until 4 doing presentations concerning family law, children's law, grandparents' rights, guardianship actions, and things like that. And then afterwards, we'll have free consults with attorneys for a couple of hours in the afternoon, so hopefully you'll join us, or let somebody know who has that kind of issue in their life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer.
Ready?
Yep.
Whereas the first nurse practitioner was from New Mexico, and whereas the role of nurse practitioners was developed in 1965 for the rural communities of New Mexico, and whereas nurse practitioners for 51 years have provided excellent health care to New Mexicans in rural and urban settings, and whereas there are 1,670 licensed nurse practitioners in New Mexico providing high-quality, cost-effective health care, and whereas nurse practitioners are registered nurses with advanced education and advanced clinical training, most with master's or postmaster's degrees, and whereas nurse practitioners diagnose acute and chronic conditions, prescribe medications, treat illnesses, and counsel patients on healthcare issues, and whereas the excellent safety and cost effectiveness of the care provided by the nurse practitioners has been established, and whereas nurse practitioners provide health care to people of all ages in diverse health care settings such as private office practice, hospitals, long-term care facilities, schools, state and local health departments, and managed care facilities. And whereas it is documented that patients of nurse practitioners are given more personal time and attention than they traditionally receive from other health care providers. Now, therefore, I, Ken Ladner, Mayor of the town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, in view of the inherent value of this, do hereby proclaim November 13 through 19, 2016 as Nurse Practitioner Week, in recognition of the many contributions that this dedicated group of healthcare professionals make to the health and well-being of the people in the communities they serve in this great state of New Mexico and throughout the country.
Thank you.
I think he wants to get a picture.
I'd rather not.
Okay. Would you like to make a few comments?
Yes, thank you very much. I want to thank Mayor Ladner, and I would like to thank Kathy Mackey for all their assistance in getting this proclamation put together. There are about 250,000 nurse practitioners in the United States now, and many thousands more around the world, because what we started here in 1965 in New Mexico has been shown to help people throughout the world in pursuing health and wellness. And I would like to thank you again for this proclamation, which will go to the Nurse Practitioner Council in Albuquerque.
Thank you. I've just been notified that we have a special distinguished guest with us today, State Senator Howie Morales. Welcome, Senator Morales. The next item on the agenda is public input. I see we have 6 people that have signed up to make comments. I just want to remind you that it's a city ordinance that you're limited to 4 minutes. So if I see you're getting close to the 4-minute mark, I'll let you know, okay? So first on the list is June Fortner.
Good evening. Our concerns are on the safety and, let's see what you have here. I don't do this very often, so I'm nervous. The operation and equipment safety requirements for ATVs and UTVs on the streets of Silver City. My husband and I have been riding ATVs for over 30 years. We've been on the streets riding them in other states, and we have never seen any problem with accidents. We are in states that also don't require helmets, but as responsible citizens, we do use helmets. If there's any, I gave you all pieces of paper. If there's any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Next on the public input is Larry, and I'm sorry, but I cannot read your name. Would you give us your last name when you come up, please?
Yes, my last name is Trout. Actually, it is McLeod, M-C-L-A-U-D. My writing is very shaky these days. It's because I get nervous when I get in front of distinguished people such as yourself, Mr. Mayor, and the town council. I am here basically to talk about the ordinance 1251. I'm very concerned about this ordinance. I think it's not in the best interest of the public to pass this ordinance. And I would like to just briefly read from ordinance number 1175, which is the noise ordinance that passed in 2011. It basically talked about unreasonable, loud, disturbing, annoying, unnecessary noise degrades the environment of the community to a degree that is harmful to the health, welfare, and safety of its inhabitants and visitors. Comfortable enjoyment of life, property interferes with the well-being, tranquility, and privacy of the home. It goes on to state the effective control and elimination of unreasonably loud, disturbing, annoying, and unnecessary noise are essential to the health and welfare of the town's inhabitants and visitors. This is the primary reason why I'm against this ordinance. There are also several other reasons, safety reasons, and also the inability of the police department to enforce the laws that are already on the books. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Trent Boyle.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you for your time to address the council. As a business owner, I would like to number one, let you know that I think this will be a positive impact to me as tourism increases when people have the ability to get out and recreate, and we have a beautiful wilderness for people to see that. And I think this is a bonus for tourism to the point that I'm actually ready to structure tours with, letting people come here and know we have a great place to see. I want to address another issue where people address safety. The vehicles on these cars are full of crash cages. They're safer than any car that you drive down the street. They stop very fast. They are safer than a motorcycle by far, and really safer than most cars. One thing that one gentleman had an issue with was noise. Another thing we should address here is all these vehicles have emissions. If they've modified them, that should be something that we should address. Really, if we want to look at enforcement, that's something that we should address. If people are making noise, yes, we should say, hey, you guys are causing a problem. Let's address that. We have a way to go through that. And so basically, as a whole, I just wanted to say I'm for this, and I moved here from Utah, and I was used to economies that had this in them, and they made a huge impact. I did address the council several months ago and let them know the real numbers on what this was, and it was hugely to the impact of, I think, the local economy in Richfield was $8 million, and Moab, I think, was $30 million. So we have a comparable wilderness here. We have, everything in place to support this, and really could use it locally to just get some money in our tax base. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Sissy McAndrew.
Thank you, Council. I wanted to address also the two ordinances. One, the ordinance 1251. I just want to remind the council that over the last 10 years, the town has invested over $1 million to market our community, our sense of place. It's one of the best small western towns, and how quaint we are. So I'm really concerned about the noise. I work downtown. We have a hard time enforcing that, and I really feel for the police department. It's a difficult issue. I'm also concerned about the safety and the design of our roads. I just don't think there's a great room for compatibility. I'm concerned about law enforcement. And on the noise issue, I just wanted to mention to you, as a realtor, I actually have people coming in right now wanting to move out of town. They're not going to leave Grant County, but they do not want to live in Silver City because of the noise. So those are just things for consideration. The other issue I wanted to talk to you about is the golf course. I am a golfer, and I understand none of you on the council are. I'm pleased Mr. Brown got out recently. I know he's been having some back problems over the years. We used to golf a lot together back in the old days. But I think you all appreciate old-growth trees. I think you appreciate an aviary setting, green space, and this is indeed where the San Vicente Creek continues to run out onto the desert. We had a lease agreement with Silver Fairways LLC, and we definitely had difficulties. That same lease has been used as a template for the new lease. And I just believe that we need to look at some of the things that didn't work and make adjustments so we have a better document. One of the areas I'm concerned about, and I did speak with the town today, and they actually made some changes to the document. But the fact is the maintenance and operation of the golf course. We have several issues I'll talk to you about. I understand that we are not going to charge rent to WNMU to utilize the golf course, and yet in item 31-17, it mentions upon payment of rent. So I believe that probably needs to be adjusted. The other thing that I don't quite understand is in Appendix B, where the town of Silver City will compensate WNMU for the operation of their liquor license, a sum equal to $1,000 per month. So I guess we're paying WNU to run the liquor license. The other areas I'm concerned about is the maintenance of the golf course. We have lost over 20 large trees, some of these within the last 6 months. The fairways, some of those have been left uncut to where people can really hurt themselves, not only their wrists trying to hit a golf ball, but just walking through those areas. I know they're difficult areas to maintain. I think there's a better way to address that. We also have greens where they've been cut so short that the fabric is coming up from under the greens. All of this leads to, as we talk about maintaining them to USGA standards on 6.2, is that the course probably needs to be re-rated at this point. We also need to look at probably getting a greenskeeper. Golf Pro does not understand turf. We need to get somebody that understands how to maintain the course. We've got all the equipment, but we need to get a knowledgeable individual to do that. I'm hoping that we don't use the golf course in its present condition as a baseline or a status quo. It has been better. It can be better. We also need to give them at 6.6 written notice that there's a defective condition. We don't give any time frame for that. I think that would be a good idea. Talking about the insurance of the course, the university is to carry the insurance, but when I get a special events permit, I need to co-insure the city. So I'm hoping we'll do
I
that.
have about 30 seconds.
All righty. Last of all, I'll just go into the advertising. In 9.3, it states that the town public golf course needs to be mentioned. Right now, on Ridge Road, Fairway Drive, and the side of the building, it is now the university course at Scott Park. I think we need to have that say Silver City somewhere so that we get recognition for that. I'm hoping we can work together and make the golf course better and continue to make our community better. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Name is Tony Garcia. I've lived here all my life, and I am for the side-by-sides, not the four-wheelers. The side-by-sides are a lot quieter than your motorcycles, your 4x4s or diesel trucks, your little Japanese cars. All those vehicles are pretty noisy, including the sirens from the fire department or the police department or the sheriff's department. They're much, much quieter. They're safer than most cars. They have roll bars. They have harnesses to hold you down, not just a seat belt. They're pretty safe. And I would like to see it. They use less gas, and it's not going to give you more traffic downtown, because if I don't go in my pickup or my car, I would go in this vehicle, so it's not going to add any more traffic. I'd just like to have you consider looking at this and trying it and see if we can use our side-by-side, not the four-wheelers, but the side-by-sides. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Morales?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to address each of you. There's a couple things that I want to discuss, and I first appreciate the involvement of the individuals in the audience who feel strongly about one way or another on an ordinance that you're going to be listening to. I had the opportunity to vote on that, Senate Bill 270, and one thing I really appreciated about the work that the sponsor had done with that with Senator Steve Neville out of the Farmington area, is that he proposed that it come back to the local levels, and that's the way it should be. When decisions are going to be made, you guys know the impact of when decisions are made at the state level that you have no say in, and I think that that's something that's impacted us economically. But in this case, it gives you the opportunity to take this issue up, to discuss it, to debate it, and I commend each of you for doing that and to listening to the constituents who are here and who have voiced support as well. I do have to say that when the debate was taking place, I initially had thought that I'd be in full support of it, whether it was ATVs or OHVs, and then some data that came out and some research that was done from the Department of Health really showed some strong concerns with the use of ATVs, and I understand that through your discussions and your debates or your negotiations that you've now focused in on the OHV side of it. I feel that that's a pretty good compromise, and I think that that goes along the quality or the mission of your mission statement in saying that the quality of life and the recreational opportunities. I would hope that that would be seen as a positive, again, I wouldn't have been able to be in support if it was in the ATVs only, but because of the benefits that came in from the OHV opportunities there, I look forward to seeing how the outcome is determined. I have no say in this. I don't want to influence any of the votes. All I want to do is to make sure that you know my thoughts as we debated this bill, and commend you guys for taking this issue up. The next thing I wanted to talk about, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, is I want to congratulate you, and particularly our city manager, Alex Brown, on your recent award for Energy Manager of the Year. And what I appreciated the most of that is in the press releases that were out there, Mr. Brown shares that with each of you, and it should be, because all of you have taken the leadership role. And I know when I'm up in Santa Fe and discussing what we do in our local governments, I'm extremely proud when there's honors like this that come in. And I can tell you that looking at budgets, looking at issues around the state, I put our city manager against any city manager in the state. And so I'm proud of him and proud of you as a council for your leadership in energy efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Morales. The next item on the agenda is council comments. Councilor Kano?
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing is that as I travel to municipal league training, I speak to a lot of municipal officials from around the state, and in their communities, oftentimes they have a part of their agenda is just discussion, and it's something that's not, there's nothing voted on, but they're discussing issues in their community, and I think that's something we might want to consider putting on our agenda, because there are times when I know that I've heard from several residents that they watch our meetings and they think that it's all contrived and we all had planned what we're doing ahead of time, and that really isn't the case. We're very, very careful about not having a rolling quorum, not discussing things ahead of time. We're actually hyper-vigilant about that, I would say. But I think there are some serious things that the community is concerned about, and it would be nice to have that kind of discussion. So hopefully in the future we can add that to our agenda. And the other thing is I want to explain something, because I know it's going to happen this evening, and I want to explain it so that people aren't confused when it happens. Sometimes one of us will make a motion and then someone else will second it because we want it to come to a vote. We want that discussion to happen, and we want that decision to be made. Just because someone makes the motion or seconds it doesn't necessarily mean they approve of the item. It just means that they want to bring it to a vote. So when you're watching this, the public, just understand that sometimes we want to have a decision made, and so that's why we do what we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming out here and talking about the UTVs side by side. We need this input from the public, even though some like it and some don't like it, and I thank Mr. Morales for speaking on behalf of everybody. But going back to Councilor Kano's comment, we are allowed to talk to somebody at one, but we don't do it. We don't do it because we don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to feel that we owe something to another person. Another thing is that the Grito Head Start that on Cooper Street, they had to redo it again. So please be patient with the closure on Cooper Street. It will be done eventually, and we will see how this thing turns out today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Amon Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to report that yesterday I walked along the Big Ditch with members of the Arts and Culture District, Main Street, and with Mr. Peter Pena, who's our Public Works Director. We were walking to see where bike and pedestrian trails might be. We're going to put a grant proposal in. I just want to say that this comes directly out of the bicycle master plan work that's being done, and that master plan is now available on the town website, so anyone can go out and look at it. And I want to acknowledge that when we have a notice of an intent for an ordinance, we do that so that there is time for public input. And so I very much appreciate the public input. Here, the numbers of emails that I've gotten, and I know that other emails have been sent off to town staff about a variety of ordinances. So your voice is heard, and I very much appreciate it. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bedison?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I enjoyed participating in the first year Buddy Walk that was held this past Saturday. Councilor Kano was there as well, and also there was the county assessor who was videotaping everything. And for the first time for an event that really brings awareness to Down syndrome, it was incredibly well attended and quite moving. So I think next year it's going to be even bigger and better, and I think a lot of folks offered to assist in making sure that this could be an annual event. I also want to thank Santa Clara Mayor Bausch, because he was also instrumental in getting this going. So it just was a really wonderful event, and I hope you look for it next year, and it's a little bit better publicized. Like several other counselors before me, I want to thank you for your input here today, and on the ordinance before, the 3 ordinances that are before us, as well as the input that I received via email and from through town staff that were emailed as well. Your input is critical in making decision, and just realize that there sometimes aren't people here that have also given us input that may be in opposition to what was heard earlier, or vice versa. So just realize that input comes from a wide variety of areas, and one of the things that I just want to reiterate is when we do a notice of intent, that is not that we are voting on the ordinance. That is for public discussion. A lot of folks have a little bit of confusion about that. A notice of intent is something that we follow pretty strictly to make sure that there's at least 15 days of discussion before it gets put on to the actual agenda for a vote to be called. So thank you for all your input. It's really critical to decisions that we'll be making tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other council comments? Today was a day that the city signed a contract, and in a partnership with WNMU and the county, we will have a live streaming video installed on top of W Mountain. And this was real special to me because it was a partnership between the university, the county, and the city to make this happen. It should be coming online in about a week or so, and there'll be more information coming out later. Also, I'd like to announce that on November the 11th, on Veterans Day, we will dedicate the old Hudson Street Bridge as the Veterans Memorial Bridge to honor all of those who have served our great country. So we would encourage you to try to come out to that. I think we're going to have quite a few people there, and there will be some information coming out in the newspaper in terms of the specific time for that event. Okay. The next item on the agenda is changes to the agenda. Does the council want to make any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor?
Council Amon Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's an item on the agenda that is about an agreement between Western New Mexico University and the town. And President Shepard from WNMU is here for a short time only to make himself available for any discussion during that time. He has another commitment. I therefore move that we move item 10C, the approval, disapproval of notice of intent, ordinance number 1252, which is about the municipal golf course, up to before Roof Courts.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Councilor Benson, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I move to remove item 11A under new business, approval/disapproval of a memorandum of agreement between the town of Silver City and Sanctuary Water Cooperative Association. There needs to be additional discussion prior to it before coming to the council.
Okay, we have a motion to remove item 11A under new business. Do we have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item removed. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes of the October 11, 2016 regular meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilwoman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 11th, 2016.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Bedeston?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda, due to a change in the agenda, is item 10C. Is the approval/disapproval of ordinance number 1252, an ordinance to approve a long-term lease for the management of the Silver City Municipal Golf Course, also known as Scott Memorial Park Golf Course, under the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 48-24 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code. I understand that this item was published as a notice of intent, but I want to point out that we already voted on the notice of intent, so we will be voting on the actual ordinance itself. President Shepherd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council members, for moving this agenda item up. I really appreciate that. One point of detail, if you don't mind someday taking into account a dress code for this illustrious chamber, I noticed that Senator Morales is wearing a UNM vest, and that's causing me a little bit of grief. Thank you. And perhaps it's in the contract, he cannot wear that on the golf course. Thank you so much. We have had a great working relationship with the town. In particular, I want to thank our city manager, Alex Brown. He's very attentive to the needs of this community, and so are we. We're an integral part of this community. We think it's an important piece of the community that the university is here, and I think most people agree, including yourselves. That being noted, when the opportunity came along for the golf course to look for a different type of management, it seemed like a logical fit to have a government agency be part of that, meaning the university. And being the fact that we happen to have a golf program at the institution, and being the fact that we happen to have a golf coach who's very well versed in golf courses, it seemed a very natural fit, and we're very proud to do so. There's a couple pieces of item that are in the contract that you may or may not recognize. For example, it was mentioned $1,000 in terms per month. That was actually required of us on the liquor license when it was transferred over. Why us and not somebody else? That was just something that the state of New Mexico said, if you want this transferred, you need to have this provision in there. So there's that piece to it. And so therefore there's a back and forth on that. As far as the fairways and greens go and the maintenance of it, we take that very seriously. We believe in bringing things up to PGA standards, and in fact, in my previous life at a previous institution, we actually had there's actually a professional golf management program run by the PGA that actually gives degrees in this sort of thing. And to that end, we're having conversations right now of indeed hiring a superintendent of greens. As many of you know, about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe it's even longer than that since I've been here, there used to be a superintendent of greens, and because of the budget issues surrounding the previous management, they got rid of that and tried to inculcate that into a general manager. We think it's an important attribute. That's so noted, of course, when it rains, grass grows. To give you an idea of what's happened in the latest piece, in the 6 months we've maintained the golf course, we've already aerated it twice. That typically has not happened in the past 4 to 5 years. We are now on a regular schedule for fertilizer. That's an approved PGA type of a program in terms of making sure we get fertilizer on there. And yes, we do cut the grass on a regular basis. Sometimes it grows a little quicker than most would perhaps like, but we're very sensitive about that. The greens themselves, we believe, are starting to improve. There are some spots that have had some fungus issues associated with them. We'll continue to maintain that, particularly during the growing season. Naturally, we're now moving to the non-growing season, so that becomes a little bit more problematic. As far as trees goes, yes, when trees do get infested with various bugs and so forth, unfortunately, they have to come down. What we need to do is have a program to replace them, so we constantly have that beauty associated with the golf course. Same is true with the ponds and some of the other attributes out there. But here's the beauty of the contract. Let's assume for a moment that at some point in time, this council and the university disagree with each other, impolitely or politely, and you decide, you know what, we love you as a university, not so much as a golf course manager. You have the ability in this document to give us, without any cost, 60-day notice, and we can move on. So I think the city is very well protected on this, and I think so too is the university, and I strongly support this particular agreement, and I appreciate the arrangement that we're having between the two entities, because at the end of the day, it really is about the quality of life that we have here in Grant County, that we have here in the town of Silver City, and we're part of that quality of life, and we're proud to be partners with this particular town and town council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for President Shepherd? Councilor Benson?
Alex, is there anything that you would like to discuss with President Shepherd?
Yeah, I think Dr. Shepherd pretty much said most of it. We do have an excellent relationship, not just on the golf course, but on a lot of other matters that we've been working on. We're going to continue to have that dialogue and make sure that things work for both the university and the town as far as the golf course is concerned when we're looking at this agreement. We've both put money into the golf course, quite a bit of money in this last 6 months compared to what's been put into the golf course in the last few years. It's been a short time to judge anything on what's happened in the last 6 months. I think we need to look forward on what we can do. The agreement, I believe, is good enough, and the maintenance issues, so that it protects both of us, so that we can ensure that we can grow and make the golf course better. We're hoping that in time that we don't have to put any money into it. But the benefit of working with the university right now that we couldn't do with Silver Fairways, and it put them at a disadvantage, was that when equipment goes down or if something happens, anything, we can help each other without worrying about violating the anti-donation clause. I think it's a very beneficial agreement. I know there's some of those things that were basically clerical errors that we can just adjust because they are clerical errors. I just asked Robert about it. So some of those things we can take out or fix. To me, it's nothing but positive. So.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown or President Shepherd?
I do have another.
Okay.
So I think when it was originally presented as an NOI, Mr. Brown, I know that it was brought up, which was recently brought up under public input, about making sure that audible and visible advertising does state that the premises are a town, and by that it's Town of Silver City Public Golf Course. And I think that the university is working on that with the marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the Town of Silver City Golf Course. The land and everything under it is owned by you. All we are is the stewards of your asset and of your resource. And if there's something amiss and we need to change some of the signage or put more signage in, we'd be happy to do so.
Thank you, Dr. Shepherd. I think the other thing was that it's required that it be called Scott Park because of the donation of the actual property.
Actually, that was brought up at one time, and there is no actual requirement, but we do continue to require that it is called Scott Park.
So I think the only thing is just ensuring that while it says that the university golf course at Scott Park, that it does still have something underneath that says the Town of Silver City Public.
And Mayor Pro Tem, just for the record, not quite sure how it got switched over. I have an idea, but not quite sure how it got switched over to the University Golf Course. We can put any name you want on it. We're perfectly fine with that. I'm not wedded to any one thing versus another. I do know that we're trying to create an identity for that golf course, so people think that it's at a level that is equal or better than any other golf course in in New Mexico, and I'm going to tell you right now that my goal is to make it equal or better than any golf course in New Mexico, and there's a lot of work to be done on cart paths and a whole bunch of other things that I didn't even mention that we're going to invest some resources toward.
And I think, just as a statement, I think that it, by calling it the University Golf Course, it really puts us on par with the fact that UNM has a golf course, and I think, yeah, I'm sorry, some other universities apparently in the state have golf courses. I think that just including that it's a Town of Silver City public golf course is just, once again, reiterating the partnership between the two entities is the way I see it. And I think that many of the golfers and the public would really appreciate that. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown, and thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Councilor Kano? I'm sorry, Councilor, did you wait?
She went first.
At the last council meeting, I had several concerns and issues that I brought up, and I would just like to thank Mr. Brown because since then, he has come up with the golf course maintenance standards and expectations, and it's several pages long, and I, again, do not speak golf, so I do not understand this, but any golfer that's interested in seeing this, just contact probably any of us, and we'll be willing to share it with you.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Shepherd, for coming and speaking so eloquently, as usual. I have one comment and one question. One comment is that within this ordinance, the town manager is empowered to renegotiate and modify the agreement. So things can be changed, especially clerical errors or wording changes. But I do have a question. If there are groups of concerned citizen golfers who are concerned about the upkeep or something like that, to whom do they go with their concerns?
They go to the town.
We do have in the town ordinances, there is the golf course advisory board that I would work with, and then I would deal with the university on their concerns. So we can put that back into, it's a board that already exists, but has been dormant for many, many years. And if the town wishes to do that, then we can put it back together, and I'll deal with them, and I'll pass on the information to the university.
But that being said, let me add on to that. I don't mind, again, I think you've known me long enough now, 5 years, I think I take criticism fairly well. And I don't mind creating on the website a link that if a golfer or somebody using it, a patron or non-golfer, doesn't matter to me, has a complaint, they can send it and it can go to both the town and us through electronics. There's no reason why we have to get so formal that it takes weeks and weeks and weeks to correct a problem that could only take a few minutes had the right person known about it.
So perhaps a virtual, citizens golf advisory group. That sounds faster and easier. Just wanted to bring that up because, as Councilor Kano can attest, we've had a number of people approaching us and being concerned. And those are all avid golfers who want to know that there's a golf course that's available and good for their outdoor recreation. So, thank you both.
Councilwoman, just one other final note. There's an interesting factoid that I don't know, I might have to see some additional help because now the university is in charge of a dog park and a golf course, and both are very problematic when it comes to complaints.
Thank you. I'd be happy to talk with you more about the dog park.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Councilor Ray?
Dr. Shepherd, if by any chance there is somebody that would like to do a fundraiser, would it be feasible to do it there at the golf course?
Absolutely. We do fundraisers already. In fact, the hospital just had a fundraiser there. We, the university, have our annual fundraiser. We're going to have a homecoming fundraiser that we just had. Our alumni people get together. There's other agencies and groups. We accommodate that all the time.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Do I hear a motion? Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve ordinance number 1252, an ordinance to approve a long-term lease for the management of the Silver City Municipal Golf Course, also known as Scott Memorial Park Golf Course, under the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 48-24 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Ray?
I'll second that as read.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We have a motion as read and a second. Ann, roll call, please.
Counselor Benison?
Aye.
Counselor Amon Smith?
Aye.
Counselor Ray?
Aye.
Counselor Cotto?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, President Shepherd.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Benson?
I move for a short recess, 5 minutes.
Okay, there's a motion to have a 5-minute recess. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I call our meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is reports, and there are 3. The first report will be the quarterly report for tourism by Callie Kennington, Executive Director of the Silver City Arts and Cultural District.
Good evening, councilors, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to say welcome to Senator Morales and congratulations to Mr. Brown on his recognition at the state level for city manager. So you all have our report, our quarterly report for the first quarter. That was a lot of quarters. But I just wanted to touch on a few different things that we've been working on and what's come the past few months. So one of the things that we recently installed was a tablet in the visitor center. And this kind of came about from a suggestion that you had, Mr. Mayor, about collecting email addresses to keep in touch with visitors after they've left. So that's now installed. If you haven't yet come in to see it, I would definitely suggest doing that. I believe it'll help us collect more comprehensive information about visitors, as well as their email addresses to stay better in touch for repeat visitors. So far, we found out that 78% of our visitors from the first quarter were actually first-time visitors to Silver City. And the second leading percentage was 25%, with 3 to 5 times they've been to Silver City, and closely followed by 22% when someone said so many times that they've lost count. So all of those are great to hear for us. We want to continue to have first-time visitors as well as encourage people to come back to our town. Of course, the top attractions that we always talk about, still leading in the first quarter: historic downtown, Cliff Dwellings, National Forest, restaurants, and the Silver City Museum were top this time. A recent project we also completed in conjunction with the town was completing the new map pads and the new design. So those are ready to be distributed to area hotels and different attractions for use. And they're gorgeous. It took a while, but we're really glad with the outcome of that. I wanted to speak briefly about the collaborative nature that we try to encourage and foster with our ACD coordinated council meetings, which I know Councilor Linda Amon Smith always comes to, which is very much appreciated. For the Labor Day weekend, that was one of our big collaborative pushes during this quarter, and we saw a 30% increase in visitation in the visitor statistics for that weekend this year. And I think it had a lot to do with, the push we had with the print media, social media. In fact, on Facebook, we did some collaborative Facebook advertising with the different entities we were partnering with, and we saw about a 50,000 person reach with that campaign. So I also wanted to talk briefly about social media, since I'm already on that. Our Facebook page is growing in momentum. We have a steady following of over nearly 14,000 for this quarter. Increased usage on our Pinterest page, as well as people really engaging with the Silver City NM hashtag, both visitors and locals, and sharing their love for Silver City. There's over 5,500 pictures on Instagram that use that hashtag, which is really great to see the participation in that. So I think those were all of my main points. Any questions?
Councilor Amon Smith?
Thank you.
Thank you for the report. I want to say that I got the beta test, the tablet in the visitor center, and there's going to be a lot of really useful information that's going to come out of that data collection. So I was very supportive of it. And I also got one of the new maps, and they're really wonderful. Ms. Kellington, could you please explain something to me here about the collaborative nature? And I would have liked to talk with you a little bit about this ahead of time, but I only really got a copy of the daily press in which the County Lodgers Task Board talked about some of their accomplishments, which seemed to be kind of overlapping with some of the accomplishments you put on your report to us, specifically advertising on the side of a transportation entity in Tucson and digital ads on the Rail Runner. Is that a collaborative effort, or are these two running parallel?
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because Becky and I both noticed some false information in that article that we sent in corrections for today, actually. So some of it is collaborative in nature with Grant County Tourism in order to stretch both of our marketing dollars. We've done social media, Facebook campaigning to increase visitation to our page so that we're getting a bigger reach. The Tucson Sunlink car is also a collaborative effort between the two of us. And you also mentioned the Rail Runner advertisements, which is actually solely our marketing dollars. So that was incorrectly printed. I think another incorrect thing was they mentioned pulling advertising from New Mexico Magazine, which wasn't correct. So hopefully you'll see some revisions for that article with that false information.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So if you don't mind sticking with a couple of things here. In your report, you said that there was $6,435 spent on digital advertising in the first quarter. And just to put that in perspective, that represents the largest tax from $129,000 worth of Silver City lodging establishment revenue. And so that's roughly equivalent to about 1,290 hotel nights. So is this primarily on the Rail Runner, that advertising, or are there others? I understand there's some digital advertising, or was at the Albuquerque Airport. So can you kind of put that in perspective?
Yeah, so what we have categorized under digital advertising is in fact the Rail Runner, as you mentioned, as well as the paid Facebook advertising.
Okay, and so the Facebook advertising isn't nearly as large a portion, I would assume.
Yeah, of course, no.
Okay. So could you let me know, is that going to reoccur every quarter, or is that for a year? That's been for the Rail Runner.
That's per year.
That's per year, okay. So just want to put out here that in the July 2016 Albuquerque Journal, an article pointed out that ridership on the Rail Runner has declined, unfortunately, every year since its peak in 2010, and that now ridership is 40% less than it was 5 years ago, which means that there's something going on in terms of ridership with the Rail Runner. In that same article, they made a theory that really what the riders on the Rail Runner right now are really primarily commuter riders riding back and forth between the areas and Albuquerque. So do you have any evidence that there's real tourism eyes on the marketing there on the Rail Runner?
It's certainly something that we will look into. As you mentioned earlier, we're hoping and already seeing that the tablet installation is providing more comprehensive information about where people have heard about Silver City. So that's promising that we could hear some news about that.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by that. Since I haven't been on the Rail Runner for a couple of years, could you briefly describe what the advertising looks like that we're paying for there?
Yeah, so what we're paying for, and one of the neat things that I am really excited about, is the opportunity that we can switch out the imagery, and we're deciding to do that about once a month to coincide and promote different events that are upcoming, as well as attractions in Silver City. So since they're digital, that's one of the advantages, and they're basically just screens throughout the different rail carts. Again, I've never personally been on these either, but we recite photos of the advertisements, so they're screens throughout the rail cars that show the advertising.
Okay, so we could actually have pictures related to festivals and events, as well as pictures of downtown Silver City, and
Yeah, we have.
doing that kind of regular. I really appreciate that information. That was really helpful. I think that was all the questions I had. Thank you so much.
Councilor Madison?
Thank you, Mayor. So, in answer to one of the questions, I'd already thought that the social media monies were actually the Facebook advertising, but you're saying that the digital advertising includes Facebook advertising?
Yes.
Okay.
So the social media is to manage the pages.
So the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, some of the stuff I don't do. So that's to manage all of those, but not necessarily the advertising part that goes under the digital advertising.
Yes, so the digital advertising part encompasses when we, for example, with the Labor Day advertising, boosted the post, or we can do a 6-image rotating campaign just to promote our Visit Silver City page, and of course the town and visitation.
Great, thank you. And I have one other, I just want some clarification. Could you talk about what the new collateral piece that you are working on?
Yes, I can. So we are working on designing a new collateral piece for Silver City, and it will be to replace the 25 Reasons to Love Silver City, which is a little outdated now. So it will be a 6x9 booklet featuring full-page imagery to match our print media that we've been pursuing. It has different sections that relate to downtown Silver City, the museums, area attractions, small town life, the climate, as well as birding, and it's a very gorgeous piece. We're excited to get it finished and get it out there, and we're looking at doing 4 different cover designs to represent different parts of Silver City that people are interested in.
And can you tell me where you plan to distribute it to? Rather, it's probably not just Silver City, but any of the visitor centers that may still be open in the future? I would think throughout the state might get them, I hope.
Yes. So this piece will be distributed to other visitor centers, as well as used as the piece that we send out for leads and different people seeking information about the town.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Councilor McConnell?
Question. Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to commend you and your staff for the work you've been doing lately. Your printouts have been beautiful. I've really enjoyed, getting on any of my social media sites and something popping up because people are sharing it. I think you're doing a really good job of social media, which is, the way of the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda will be a presentation by Mr. Brian Cunningham, CEO of the Gila Regional Medical Center Healthy Hospital / Healthy Community Initiative. Mr. Cunningham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors, good evening. Congratulations, Mr. Brown. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you all and our citizenry to speak about the Healthy Hospital Healthy Community Initiative. There are many elements to a healthy community. We talk about education and police and fire and roads. So many elements of a healthy community. And of course, one is our healthcare system and specifically our hospital. It's my understanding that you have a PowerPoint tonight, and I'll refer to some slides as we kind of breeze through there. I want to let you know the purpose of my presentation tonight is singular. It is to present information to this body and our citizens so that we can be more informed, we can answer any questions people may have, so that this body and our citizens can make the most informed decision at the ballot box. That's our singular purpose. We're not here to try to convince anybody of anything or sell anybody of anything. That's not our business in healthcare. Simply here to present information and answer any questions you may have. As you may know, healthcare is experiencing many, many challenges over the past several years, and it hits us all. It hits you all with probably higher deductibles and co-pays, challenges with more red tape getting into the system, and it's the same with healthcare agencies and physicians. From a financial standpoint, Gila Regional has been challenged significantly over the last several years. Our state funding through our Medicaid supplemental program has decreased drastically. I'll jump to a slide in a little bit, but in 1 year, we were cut $11 million in 1 year and had to absorb that. So significant challenges on the reimbursement side. Healthcare is also an equipment-intensive environment. The machines, the diagnostic equipment that we use is big and expensive. We have a 33-year-old plant facility that requires a lot of upkeep. With the cuts we've been experiencing and the increase in expenses, last few years we've been challenged to earn enough of an operational surplus to fund our capital needs every year. This has been the challenge to Gila Regional and most every rural hospital in the country. So I want to get into some specific information about that and one of the solutions, one of the pieces of the puzzle to help support Gila Regional in serving our community, and that, of course, is going to be the property tax levy. So if you'll look at slide 2 in your packet, that's simply a slide with some demographic information about Gila Regional. I would just highlight a couple of those bullet items, mainly that Gila Regional is a Grant County-owned hospital. A Grant County-owned not-for-profit hospital. Every penny of operational surplus as a not-for-profit hospital, every penny goes right back into that hospital and supports our mission, which is serving this community. You see a list of some of our services, but that is not all-inclusive. On slide 3, before we get into speaking about the financial issues, I want to most certainly highlight slide 3. Slide 3 is a reference to a recognition Gila Regional recently received. You know, we're talking about finances tonight and support, but I want to make sure that our discussion includes Gila Regional's primary focus, which is the highest quality care possible for those we serve. And we're not just talking about it, it's just not a message up on a wall somewhere. We've been working extremely hard for years. Recently, the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid acknowledged Gila Regional as a 4-star quality hospital. This award comes from a program that Medicare has where they rate every hospital in the country across 60-some items. They report this publicly on a website, the Hospital Compare website, so that everyone in the country can make more informed decisions about their health care. Gila Regional was recognized as a 4-star quality hospital on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best. That puts Gila Regional in the top 20% of all hospitals in the nation on this quality award. We're one of only 3 hospitals in New Mexico to achieve a 4-star quality rating. There's no 5-star quality hospitals in New Mexico yet. That's our next goal for all of you. So I just want to make sure that the conversation is grounded in our true purpose at Gila Regional, which is the highest quality of care for you all. In the next slide, you can see a bar graph of our operational surplus over the last several years. If you look at fiscal year 2011, we had a profit of $8 million. If you went backwards in time, you would see a profit of $5 million, $6 million, $7 million. Historically, even rural hospitals made enough of an operational surplus to fund ongoing capital equipment. You'll see 2013, some of you were, most of you were around at that time and may remember Gila Regional had a significant financial challenge, and we ended that fiscal year $9 million in the red. Our entire senior leadership team resigned, left Gila Regional with many, many challenges. It's a testament to hear the caregivers at Gila Regional, how they regrouped, and within 1 year did a $10 million turnaround and got back to slightly above break even in 2012. But from 2012 on, you can see very plainly from this slide that Gila Regional is riding that break even, and in 2016 actually lost $3 million due to some big projects, big electronic medical record implementation. And at that level of surplus, it's not possible to fund your ongoing capital needs. So back to that original problem. Well, on the next slide, you can see very plainly that previously, years 11, 12, 13, we were receiving significant funds from the state through our Medicaid supplemental program, up to $17, $18 million a year. And in 1 year, that decreased down to $4 million. So, you know, you guys obviously manage budgets. Our city manager, how do you absorb an $11 million cut in 1 year? What are some of the challenges we face? The next slide, slide 6, is a graph of our days in cash, our changes in days in cash. And you can see a couple years ago we were at about 150 days of cash. On this slide, it says 113. That was several months ago. We're down to around 100 days of cash at this point. So we have obviously a downward trending days of cash. That's because we've been pulling out of cash to fund our capital over the last couple years. The previous slide, you saw break-even, operational surplus. When you have a capital-intensive organization like healthcare, where does the capital come from? And we've been pulling it out of our cash. That's some of the good news. Over the years, Gila Regional has put money in the bank, and we're an organization with no debt. So we've been able to make it through this transition better than most hospitals. If you look at slide 7, I want to just make the point. When we talk about a mill levy, when we talk about support from the community, we're not talking about anything new for New Mexico. Those counties, and there's 14 of them on this map in the light blue, they're all counties that have been receiving some sort of tax support or providing some sort of tax support for their local hospital. And this is not recent. Some of these counties have been receiving this for hospitals for 5, 10, 15 years. This is really old news for New Mexico and really the country. Gila Regional is actually one of the last rural hospitals in New Mexico to approach their community for some support. It's truly a testament of the work that's been done at Gila Regional that we've been able to last this long as a rural county-owned not-for-profit hospital, that we've been able to last this long without coming forward for support. The next slide just is an indicator of the economic driver of Gila Regional. It's not just healthcare. Slide 8. This is an estimate from the New Mexico Hospital Association. It indicates that Gila Regional generates around $96 million locally and statewide with taxes, income taxes, those kind of things, and the money we spend with local businesses and what that generates. So getting back to kind of the issue at hand, it's a complex piece of the puzzle to make healthcare work. One piece of the puzzle we've looked at over the last couple of years is this concept of community support. On slide 9, recently, it's just pictures of some of our citizens. You may know some of them very well. This is our board. Recently, they voted unanimously, passed a resolution to request support from our county. That resulted in our county voting unanimously to put a question on the ballot. And the question, in summary, is focused on a request for support for or against a 4 mil hospital property tax levy. Our county assessor's in the audience, and he's on the agenda tonight, and he'll talk about the specific impact of that mill levy and be able to answer those questions. My perspective here, my point here is to just share the what and the why of this issue and answer those questions. The mill levy, if passed, it's a 4 mil levy, if passed, would generate approximately $3.3 million for Gila Regional for 4 years, scheduled to sunset in 4 years. Those monies would be earmarked specifically per Gila Regional's resolution, only used for equipment, capital equipment, and building upgrades only things that give back to the community. If we think about that slide we looked at earlier on the days in cash, we're attempting to have this dialogue with our community proactively. We're at around 100 days of cash. If I could contrast that with a hospital in northern New Mexico, in Taos, Holy Cross Hospital. They recently, in this last year, passed a mill levy in their community. They were in the low teens in days of cash, 11, 12, 13 days of cash. So I want you to imagine for a moment what happens on the way from 100 days down to 11 in that downward spiral. What sort of things happen? What sort of things are happening to hospitals everywhere? If you can't fund your capital, right, you're going to have to make hard decisions, and you're going to lose a piece of equipment that the communities used to having, maybe a piece of diagnostic equipment. If you lose a piece of equipment, our citizens are going to travel for that service, that piece of equipment, maybe to Las Cruces. What is the cost of driving to Las Cruces? Gas and meals. What if you have to stay overnight for a test, and family needs to come in, and there's lodging involved? I'm just asking people to consider that. If you lose a piece of equipment that a physician or provider needs to care for patients, how does that impact a physician? Where do physicians go if they don't have the equipment they need to care for patients? Their primary focus. Where do nurses go in this environment if that spiral starts to continue? It's so hard to recruit nurses to this area, even with a great university program. So if you're starting to have problems recruiting and retaining key staff, what does the community see when they are witnessing this downward spiral? This doesn't happen in secret, right? Everybody knows. They start to lose faith in the hospital. They start to travel out for services that we actually still have. That further contributes to that downward spiral. So we're wanting people to just consider the impact. That's why I think our board was quite responsible in requesting that the community look at this, and that our commissioners were quite responsible in not mandating anything, putting it out to the voters. We think that's most responsible. So what does that spiral look like? That's the proactive dialogue that we're wanting to have, so that we're not in a situation like Alta Vista, for example, who recently lost their OBGYN services, and women in Las Vegas, New Mexico now are driving to Santa Fe for those types of services. These are just real things, real impacts over time. Once again, if approved, this money will be for equipment and building upgrades only. That's the things we need to care for our community. That's what keeps physicians, providers, and nurses here, helps with recruiting. You got to have the equipment and facilities. And the main goal, the singular goal of this program, is to keep our communities four-star quality care close to home. So our citizens don't need to unnecessarily travel for services that they would typically receive here. I'd like to end my presentation there and really open it up to the questions you may have, or the questions you're hearing from your constituents.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Amon-Smith?
Thank you. I saw the list of specific ways that you were identifying that you were going to use the funds. And some of them were, you included like delivery room construction upgrade, recovery room upgrade, CT scanner upgrade, X-ray upgrade. I thought there had been some upgrades in some of those areas. So can you explain what's going on?
Are you talking about in the construction or the equipment?
The equipment.
The equipment, so our equipment list probably as the cities is about this long. There were just a few examples, and we have done upgrades to that equipment over time. But in a kind of a really high-tech environment, that's every couple of years. Our capital equipment needs are projected to be around $5 million each year for the next several years. If passed, this $3 million would help offset some of that. So yes, we are upgrading things all the time. We're talking about major upgrades in the future, major purchases of upgrading equipment. We just received some capital funds, some support from our legislators for one piece of equipment, a nuclear medicine camera. It was $300,000 for a piece of diagnostic equipment. So everything's really expensive. That was just a couple examples. By the time, if the mill levy passed, we'd be a year away before we receive our first funds from that, and we would apply that to an equipment list about that long. So just some examples.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Edison?
So it's just a point of clarification.
Sure.
As you explained that there were operational surpluses, but then unfortunately the profit word came in, and as you explained in a previous slide, you're a nonprofit hospital, so when there are operational surpluses, they're put back into the hospital.
Correct.
So it's not truly a profit, it's something that there's a surplus and it's put back into for equipment, for other things that are needed, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clarification between operational surplus and the use of the word profit, so that people don't think that that's all the hospital is doing is, oh, we're just making a profit, but we're not turning it back around, which is what a nonprofit does.
I appreciate that clarification. Sometimes I'll use both words. Some people are not familiar with operational surplus, so I'll bounce that back and forth. But as a nonprofit, of course, you're correct. Every penny goes right back into the organization.
Great, thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cunningham, you have a large amount of employees, correct?
Correct. 600 plus.
Okay, do you happen to know how many employees are actually from Grant County and from out of state or from out of county?
I don't have that in front of me, but I could easily find that out and report that back to you. Is there a question around it? Is there something?
No, I'm just wondering why you have so many people working, but yet you don't know how many people are from Grant County, employees.
I want to make sure that I answer your question correctly. I'm not 100% clear about the context for your question. We have 600 plus caregivers, and I'd like to be clear about your question. Are you wanting to know
how many are actually from
Grant County and from other places?
No, from Grant County.
Just from Grant County. I do not have that number in front of me, but I can most certainly get that from you.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Councilor, is there a follow-up to that? Is there a point of concern that I could help answer with that, or?
I would just like to know, for the record, for people to know how many are from Grant County.
That's a great question, and I'll follow up and get that back to you, Councilor Ray.
At the beginning of your presentation, you were talking about police, fire, road, things that the municipality covers. If we look at how taxes will be broken down should this pass, the town of Silver City, the municipality, receives approximately 7% of property taxes are collected. However, the hospital is going to receive 17%. How are we supposed to explain that to our constituents, that you need so much more money than the municipality as a whole needs?
Yeah, and to answer your question, I'm not, again, so I work for the hospital. Our goal is to care for people. We are looking at every piece of the puzzle to help continue our ability to deliver the best service possible. I would not be in a position to answer. Obviously I'm not a council member, so I wouldn't be in a position, nor would I suggest how you should answer your constituents about any item. The only thing I could answer and talk about is what Gila Regional's doing, why we're doing it, and provide information so that you and your constituents can make the most informed decisions about this issue. That's all we're asking people to make an informed decision in the ballot box. So I'm sorry I wouldn't be able to suggest how you would respond to your constituents.
Councilor Ray?
Is it possible for the public to know what the salaries are?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we've received, interestingly enough, many Freedom of Information requests from various bodies in the past week. about various pieces of information, salaries, job descriptions. As a governmental agency, we're open to that. We're processing those as we speak. We'll give that out freely. And what people do with it, people can do what they wish. They can make any number of judgments or assumptions. But if we're talking about salaries, I would speak to how most organizations operate. We have a third-party human resources professional who gives us regional and national data around salary ranges based on market data for all positions, whether we're talking about a housekeeper or the CEO position. Just like most organizations, I'm sure the city works the same way. And then based on experience and other factors, all of our individual salaries are slated into these salary ranges. So we most certainly can provide that information, and people can, view that and ask whatever questions they have around that. So we'd be happy to do that. And we have about 4 organizations that have already requested that. We'll be getting that out. I'm sure you'll see that in the paper soon. If this body also would request that information, we can get that process going also. But as I say, it mirrors every organization's process. It's the same process.
So this will be in the paper at some point?
Well, I'm assuming all of our newspapers are asking, and some other organizations, I'm assuming they'll get the information and in some way write a story about it, one way or the other from their perspective. And again, we have no issue with that. We apply the same human resources approaches that the university uses and the town uses, and so we have nothing to hide. My personal salary is public and gets announced in open board meetings, and we welcome the community to look at that and,
Councilor Middleton?
Thank you, Mayor. In discussing this, one of the things that the university does, which other governmental bodies do, is they do make the positions and the salaries known as a transparency in government. So I might suggest that it may be something that the hospital, since it's county-owned, might want to look at.
Yeah.
It's not by name, it's by the position. And so I think, and then I think that the town has it on their website, and we don't. But I know that you can get that at the university by going to the library, generally speaking. But
I think that's great, and I personally would have no issue with that. And if mayor and councilors would permit a question, my question is, and it's a real question, what do people typically do with such information? I mean, what do you, so if we look at your position on the website and see the salary, what judgment could I possibly make without knowing your position, without knowing the real work that you do, the value to the organization, the regional and national market salary data? So I'm all for presenting information, but without context, it's just like the information you present to the community. Without context, people can make a number of assumptions, and what I'd rather do is give information within a context so people can make informed decisions around it, like what we're doing tonight. So I would gladly do that, but without context, it's just a question. What do people do with that?
they analyze the whole thing, because it's been that way ever since I worked at the university. So there are assumptions made. The reality is you can't do much about assumptions that people will make from things that are published. There's a lot of different sorts of assumptions folks will make about different things, about any sort of government or any individual, salary. And they don't necessarily know, the context. It doesn't say that I've been there for 26 years. It doesn't, list education or anything like that. It's just the title and the salary. So yes, I mean, it is what it is. I know that another university, I try not to say it all the time, but does have it in the Sunshine Portal, and certainly that's something I have used personally to showcase to my HR folks. But I also know the person that's in the position that I'm in. But there's really no relevance sometimes to being able to do that. So I guess I'm going to fall back on, it is what it is, Mr. Cunningham.
So we're all for transparency.
Yeah.
And then, but I just wanted to bring it out as a larger dialogue.
Okay, I would like to move forward unless anyone has any specific questions they would like to ask. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. By the way, going to the hospital is never a pleasant experience, but I can say that in the last 10, 15 years, I've noticed a tremendous increase in the customer service and the friendliness when you go into the hospital, and thank you for...
Appreciate that feedback. And let me just please take a second to just thank you all. Thanks for the opportunity to stand before you. I appreciate your thoughtful deliberation on any number of items, and including this one. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. The last report will be given by Mr. Raul Torrieta, Grand County Assessor.
Good evening. My name is Raul Torrieta, and I'm your county assessor. And the last time that I had a discussion about the property taxes here in Grand County, and the valuation was the whole chart. And thank you, Councilor Bedison. She contacted me and said, could you break it down to the one-in district? And that's what I have done completely. It took me about an hour, and I'm at the 12th hour right now. So I'm just going to be very brief on what exactly was going to be with the property valuation and also property taxes. For starters, we are going to be talking about net taxable value just in the town of Silver City, and that's everything inside the Silver City limits. And it's called a warrant. Once it's a warrant, it's broken down from our abstract, and our abstract gives out nothing but valuation, and it is all broken down with subtracting your exemptions like your head of household, veteran exemptions, 100% disabled, your freeze of 65 years and older. So this is actually the bottom line once all those exemptions are taken away. The average for the head household exemption is going to be about $35.55. That's off your taxable value. And your veteran exemption is $71.22. And once again, it's only in the Silver City one-in district. Before you, I do have a pie chart where it shows the one-in Silver City for 2016 property taxes. And 9 times out of 10, your rate is pretty much going to stay the same unless you increase your valuation, your rate drops a little bit. If we lose valuation, your rate will increase. Under the state debt service, and this is once again net taxable value for the state, they'll be collecting $262,961, and that's 6%. Now the county operational total net taxes, county operational is $1,574,173, and that's 34%. On the gray is actually the county debt service, and that's only $220,023. The town of Silver City residents, what that means is it's actually for the municipalities. The municipalities are going to receive $334,674, and that would be 7%. On the non-residential, and I'll explain that in a second about the non-residential, is the municipalities, $198,114, and that consists of 4%. The Silver Consolidated Schools also gets a piece of the pie with the valuation, and just the Silver City Consolidated Schools, and that includes Gila, Cliff, Aldo, and Silver City, and that's $1,236,030, and that consists of about 27%. They do have House Bill 33, they do have House school debt, and they also have school capital, and that's why the number is a little bit higher. And once with the 4 meals, and this is I'm adding the 4 meals for the net taxes, is on the hospital of $773,415, and that's 17% of the chart of the one in district. The valuation for the residents is $129,528,188, and that's how you break your rates. On the non-residential, it's $63,825,589. I'll have that memorized by tonight, trust me. So, the increases, and like I said, I've been tag teaming with Brian on on his giving his presentation, and to me, I think it's very important that the property owners need to know that there is going to be an increase in property taxes, and my job as the county assessor is I just set the authorities, the tax authorities, due to the fact that the millage is maxed out here in Grant County on the non-residential and also on the residential side. That's why they are going to the voters under Chapter 4 counties for them to increase whatever millage from 1 to 4.25 mills. Once again, under a $50,000 home, the taxes are going to increase over $64. On an $80,000 home, it's $106.66. $100,000 is $133.33. $150,000 home, that'll be $200 yearly, and $200,000 home is $266.66. Once again, my job is, if it passes, the voters decide to increase the millage for the hospital, I just create the authorities, and that would be for the year 2017. And I do stand for questions.
Any questions? Councilor Pedersen.
Just a comment. Thank you for providing the one end just for Silver City so that folks will know how their property tax dollars, where they go, including if the hospital mill request passes. And I think it's something that's valuable to do for each municipality and versus the unincorporated portions of the county, just so people kind of know how their money is being spent for their property taxes.
And thank you very much for bringing this up, because I actually deal with valuation. Ask me any value from state assessed, local assessment, copper production. I can give you every number on valuation. Taxes, that's another animal that I haven't pretty much dealt with, but I'm having a good time putting all these numbers together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Torrieta.
Once again, thank you for bringing this up. Have a great evening.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Pedersen.
Sorry. Mr. Mayor, I move for a short 5-minute recess.
We have a motion to take a 5-minute recess. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion to take a 5-minute recess.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I call our meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda that's going to require action is item 9A, is a public hearing for the approval/disapproval of a restaurant beer and wine license with on-premises consumption only. Application number 101-4317. Applicant name LBL, LLC, DBA, Silver Bowling Center, 2340 U.S. Highway 180, number 305, Silver City, New Mexico. Proposed location, 2020 Memory Lane, Silver City, New Mexico. This hearing will be conducted as follows. The town council will serve as the hearing board, and I, as mayor, will be the presiding officer. First, the applicant shall present his or her case. Next will come witnesses in support of the proponent's case. The applicant or witnesses may then be questioned by the hearing board. The presiding officer will then ask the applicant if that concludes his or her case in chief, and will state that the applicant and his or her witnesses shall remain available to be further questioned by the hearing board. or by opponents to the appeal or application. Following the close of the applicant's case, witnesses in opposition to the applicant's case shall be permitted to testify, during the course of which the witnesses may address questions to any previous witness, but such questions shall be made through the presiding officer. The presiding officer shall have the sole discretion in directing the question for response, considering whether the question is relevant, is cumulative to other testimony, or is otherwise inappropriate. Have any members of the hearing board had ex parte discussions with any person regarding the subject matter of this hearing, or had any communications from any party to this case?
No, sir.
All say no. Will all parties and witnesses intending to testify, including those staff members who intend to present testimony or who will be available for questioning, please rise to be sworn in by the town clerk.
Please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Peggy Langford,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that the testimony I'm about to give
that the testimony I'm about to give
in the matter before this council
in the matter before this council
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
under penalty of perjury.
under penalty of perjury.
Thank you.
And for the record, you only swore in one person, and that was the applicant, right? No opponents or anybody else? Okay, thank you. Would you please identify yourself and the business you represent?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am Peggy Langford, one of the owners of the LBL LLC, doing business as Silver Bowling Center. We have been in business since May, and we are seeking the approval to have our restaurant beer and wine license. In the last 4 owners of the bowling alley, they have all had the restaurant beer and wine license, and we just wish to continue to provide the same service to our community that they currently are receiving.
Are there any questions from the council for the applicant? Okay. So, Mr. Scavron, no one else was sworn in, so we don't need to ask for any other testimony, do we?
It wouldn't hurt to say, is there anybody wishing to speak? And then if they have an excuse why they did not get sworn in, you could hear it.
Okay, all right. Do you have any witnesses to speak in support of your application?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Okay, does this conclude your case in chief?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. So if you would, please remain available if we have any other questions.
Yes, sir.
And no other person was sworn in, but in case there is opposition and you weren't sworn in, is there anybody here who would like to do that? Okay. Is the hearing board prepared to consider this application and render its decision?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Councilor Kano. Oh, Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve of a restaurant beer and wine license with on-premises consumption only. Application number 101-4317, applicant name LBL, LLC, DBA Silver Bowling Center, 2340 U.S. Highway 180, number 305, Silver City, New Mexico. Proposed location, 2020 Memory Lane, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion, Stephen.
Councilor Kano. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of the motion as read, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. First item on unfinished business is 10A, the approval/disapproval of ordinance number 1250, an ordinance amending Chapter 6, Section 6-1, under definitions, comma, Section 6-4, parentheses, keeping of dogs and cats, close parentheses, Section 6-54, parentheses, penalty, close parentheses, Section 6-166, parentheses, breeder permits, close parentheses, Section 216, parentheses, license and permit requirement, close parentheses, Section 217, parentheses, professional animal permits, close parentheses, and the Land Use and Zoning Code, Article 3, Section 3.2, parentheses, uses of the town of Silver City, close parentheses, municipal code, close parentheses. This ordinance was co-sponsored by Councilor Bedison and Councilor Ray, who will be presenting it. Councilor Bedison?
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance eliminates the category of residential kennel and then limits commercial and hobby breeding to commercial light, commercial highway, I'm sorry, let me go a step back. Limits commercial kennels and hobby breeding to commercial light, commercial highway, rural and industrial land use zones only. It increases the annual permit fees. Commercial kennels would be $400 per year to be paid or to be done around January 1st, and breeder permits $200. Anyone who's currently running a residential kennel or a commercial kennel or hobby breeding in residential land use zones has a period of not more than 6 months to conform to the amended ordinance. And it states within the ordinance exactly how those permits would be given, that they would have to, I think, I'm trying to remember, I don't think it's notarized, but they'd have to have a sheet demonstrating, at least from, I would think from our local, well, from our, Community Development Department, that where the location of the commercial kennel and the hobby breeding is to occur is within the zones mentioned. The point of this ordinance is to move commercial kennels and hobby breeding outside of residential areas due to the number of complaints I've received over the years throughout all different districts of the town, where there's been increased noise levels because of maybe a residential kennel or an unlicensed hobby breeding that's going on. People have complained that the number of dogs is excessive and it's over the current limit of what we allow per household of 2 cats, 2 dogs, or combination thereof. Mr. Scavron, is there something you would like to add?
No, Councilor, thank you.
You were looking puzzled, so I just wanted to make sure that I covered everything appropriately.
Councilor Ray, did you want to add anything?
No, sir.
Are there any questions?
Any questions for Councilor Bedison? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Yes, I move to adopt ordinance 1250, an ordinance amending Chapter 6, Section 6-1, definitions, Section 6-4, keeping of dogs and cats, Section 6-54, penalty, Section 6-166, breeder permits, Section 216, license and permit required, Section 217, professional animal permits, in the Land Use and Zoning Code, Article 3, Section 3.2, uses of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code, with a minor modification for clarification purposes, which is to include the word hobby before the appearance of the word breeder which occurs in section 166, subsections A and A4 and subsection B.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Councilor Ray?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We have a motion as read and a second. Ann, roll call, please.
Councilor Benson? Aye. Councilor Amos Smith? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Carr? Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Second item under unfinished business is 10B, is the approval/disapproval of ordinance number 1251, an ordinance amending section 12-7-9 through 12-7-9.9, parentheses, off-highway motor vehicles, definitions, etc., close parentheses, of the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Code adopted as the Silver City Traffic Ordinance in Chapter 50, Section 50-1 of the Municipal Code of the Town of Silver City, New Mexico. This ordinance was sponsored by Councilor Ray. Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'm not going to repeat what I said before. I think we all heard what I would like to do. Also, I'm looking at this piece of paper here that says that from the Silver City Arts and Cultural District, one of the things that people come down here is for historic downtown, the Gila Cliff dwellings, and the National Forest. I think this would personally fit with the UTVs. I would pursue it. I would hope that it would come through with you guys to see if we could pull this off. I know there's a lot of opposition. I know people like it. I know people don't like it. One of the things is that, and I've stressed this point also, is that they are not loud. They are not loud. I don't know why people say that they're loud, but they're not loud. There are some quads that are very loud. Some of the side-by-side, which are called razors, those are loud. Again, we have the opportunity as a town council to make our own rules, to make what we feel is, make it safer for everybody to have it. And again, let's try it for a year's time. If we can try it for a year's time and if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, well then it didn't work. I would like to see it passed for maybe some quality of life for some people. We have done many things and we have given them the opportunity to have a quality of life. And I know that I know it's a hard thing. I know it's a very hard thing for everybody to decide. And with that, I will close my arguments, or whatever.
Thank you, Councilor Ray. Does the council have any questions for Councilor Ray?
I have one question.
Councilor Amos Smith?
Thank you. This might seem a little off the wall, but perhaps, Councilor Ray, you know. About how far will one of these UTVs travel on a tank of gas? So you're talking about we are surrounded by wilderness.
Okay. Usually, they have probably about a 5-gallon capacity. They can go about 35, 40 miles on a gallon.
Okay. It's about 150 miles. Okay.
More or less.
Okay.
Councilor Benson?
So, excuse me, so I'm sorry about that. Councilor Ray, I have some questions as to what's in here, and specifically, I guess, a concern that I have is, well, at the present time, we do have people that are currently using UTVs in town, even though there has been no ordinance passed that permits that usage. I mean, I've witnessed some of them myself in my area and actually far away from any national forest boundary. One of the concerns is folks keep talking about wilderness. Wilderness does not permit you to drive any mechanized machinery. It's a national forest.
Forest, yes.
Yeah, and so it has to be in those sorts of places. But one of the questions I have is, you have in 12-7, 9.5, the off-highway motor vehicle safety permit requirements issuance. I guess I don't understand that if the person has it, is that something that, it doesn't really state in here, is that something that someone would show to an officer that may have stopped them? I mean, I'm not sure the purpose of that, since it doesn't link to any, it doesn't link to the driver's license, it doesn't link to other things that I know of. So can you explain the reasoning behind having something that doesn't have a requirement that they actually have to have it on their person and show?
When you buy an ATV or UTV, it distinctly says that it has to be registered. If you are out there in the forest, they can stop you and they can ask you. It has a sticker.
Okay.
It has a sticker right there. The motor vehicle department, they have to know from the dealer that it is legalized and it is on record that you have it. They have a sticker. Other than that, you cannot operate on it. The law enforcement will also stop you if they so desire for you to show them that it is yours. You have to have a driver's license, and you have to have proof that it's yours.
Okay, but we're talking about operating on town roads. We're not talking about the operation outside the town. This is an ordinance for the town, so I guess I'm trying to understand why it would be needed in an ordinance for the town. I don't know if that's something that Councilor Skavron can explain.
Chief, would you like to, first of all, how do you handle those sort of situations?
Mayor, City Council, those situations, right now, it's illegal to operate those on roadways within the town jurisdiction. We enforce that if we can catch them. The permit that is currently used and issued is only for off-road operation in either private property, their own, or with permission somebody else's. It's not a valid permit to be operated on the streets of Silver City. So until this council either passes, then we will make the adjustment and ensure that the information is out there, which is properly registered, insured vehicle for our roadway. So there's still some hoops that people are going to have to jump through in order to ensure that that vehicle is operated properly on our roadways, registered properly, insured, etc.
That's why I had mentioned before that the state is allowing it. It's just up to the municipalities to put in their own rules.
Councilor Bedison, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, since the chief is up there, I know that you have already stated the opposition that the department has to this. Could you just restate some of the salient points about some of the issues we might face? Because we already have, you just said, if we can catch them, which is one of the issues, because they can go off-road onto private property.
The ones that don't stop for us getting a ticket wherever they need to go to get away from us. As I've stated previously, we'll probably have an increase in calls for service related to these type of vehicles. From our perspective, that's a safety issue. We look at it that we will probably have increased injuries in time. The discussion has been previously, motorcycles are just as dangerous. People are used to seeing motorcycles. We haven't had a motorcycle accident in a while. We haven't had a fatality on a motorcycle in quite some time. However, there's a discussion about safety of these vehicles. First and foremost, yes, they have roll bars, they have seat belts that are going to be required for operation on roadways. The issue is every other vehicle out there, there's a four-wheel vehicle or bigger than those vehicles. And they may end up creating serious injury upon impact with a bigger vehicle. The philosophy behind it is the more the lug nuts on a vehicle, the worse the damage, the worse the injuries. On top of you add speed, which we have a lot of issues in our town, still with speeding. It's just an increase in use of our resources towards this type of area. We will make the adjustment if the council chooses to pass this. But from our standpoint, we are against this ordinance. City council is the policymakers, and the people who pass the ordinances, we will abide and make the adjustments if that happens.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Bedison, did you have a question of Mr. Scavron?
Mr. Scavron.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Mr. Scavron, at the last time this was presented as an NOI, I asked about the town's liability because of what the owner's manual states, the manufacturer's manual states that these vehicles are to be used off-road only. They're not meant for paved roadways, and how that potentially could affect the town if we permit the use and someone then decides to sue us along with the manufacturer of the UTV in the case of an accident or a death or any number of issues.
Due to Ann's research, we received a response today from Risk Management that they see no problem in our coverage, that we would be covered if there was a lawsuit against us under the circumstances that you're describing.
Okay.
So we are covered.
We are covered, but it still means that people can sue us for something that is not within the owner's handbook.
People can sue you for any reason.
And yeah, I do know that. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, I just have a comment. I have listened to a large number of people at today's council meeting, folks that have called me at home or have stopped me in Walmart, people that have emailed me, residents that have emailed through our staff that have then been sent to us. And as I said previously, my biggest concern is adding another vehicle to the town, when we can't even get people to stop for red lights or for stop signs. Witness the fact that I saw at least 4 people run the one in front of my house over the weekend. And people feel that they can see every way around. It's not just vehicles, it's bicycles that do that run through stoplights and that will run through red lights is what I'm talking about, and stop signs. And I've had a number of people that are concerned about their quality of life being impacted by an additional vehicle on the road. In particular, UTVs, with the potential burden that I think it'll place on the police department, along with I think I counted on my way to somewhere the other day, 2 and 5 drivers I saw had their cell phones smacked up against their ears. I just think that we have a number of ordinances and things that our officers are taking care of, and our officers and our police force has really been created for a town of 10,000 people, not for the total number of people that are in town at any given time. So right now, just as I did before, I'm really kind of siding with our police department and with the larger number of people throughout the community that have contacted me that are opposed to this based on their quality of life and their concerns. As I said when the NOI was presented, I think that there's a number of amendments that I would want to make, but I don't know if any of them would go forward, and I don't know if that would actually mitigate some of the increased burden on the police department, who may not even be able to catch individuals that are, riding in a UTV. And just witnessing the fact that we have people, as I said today, I told the chief, someone riding a dirt bike up and down the roads in my area, not necessarily stopping, and it's unlicensed, not for use for street, it's not street legal, and they had a hard time catching them. So I just kind of, I know that there are people passionate on both sides. I just have more people passionate that have talked to me that are on the opposition of this ordinance. So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any other questions for Councilor Ray? Councilor Cano, did you?
I don't really have a question, I also have a comment. This has been probably the hardest vote for me since I've been elected, just because I've heard from a lot of people. I know in the last 3 weeks or so, probably every person I've encountered, I've asked what their opinion is. And for the most part, they've been against it, the people that I've spoken to. At the same time, I understand that those people who drive UTVs are probably very aware of the road and very aware of what they're doing when they're driving them. At the same time, we have a lot of people in Silver City that drive like maniacs. There's just no other way to describe it. And I'm really concerned that those people driving like maniacs are going to make the roads unsafe, even more unsafe than they are already now for everyone. So I'm not sure this is an issue that's dead forever, but I'm not really sure I can support it at this time.
Okay, any other questions for Councilor Ray or comments? We're now in the discussion phase, but I'll accept any more comments if you want. Okay, do I hear a motion? Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve of ordinance number 1251 and ordinance amending section 12-7-9 through 12-7-9.9 off-highway motor vehicles definitions et al. of the New Mexico Uniform Traffic Code adopted as a Silver City traffic ordinance in Chapter 50, Section 50-1 of the Municipal Code of the Town of Silver City, New Mexico.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion as stated.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have a motion with that and a second. And roll call, please.
Excuse me, in that discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Yeah, thank you. Any discussion?
Again, I'd just like to remind the audience that sometimes motions are seconded in order to get them to the voting stage.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? When this came up as a NOI at the last meeting, the council was split 2-2. And I voted to move it forward, not because I necessarily wholeheartedly believe that was something we should pass, but I wanted to make sure that the citizenry had enough time to contact the councilors, contact me, and to lobby one way or the other so that we would have a good sample of what the citizens in Silver City felt like. And that was very important, I think, for me to do that. Anyway, Ann, roll call.
Counselor Kano. Nay. Counselor Ray.
Aye.
Counselor Amon Smith. Nay. Counselor Bedison. Nay.
The motion fails 3-1.
May I have a comment?
Sure.
I would like to thank you guys. I really do. I really do appreciate it. At least we got something said, we got something done. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to go forward with it. Unfortunately, it didn't go through, but thank you. Thank you guys.
Councilor Ray, I want to commend you for the hard work that you put into this, and I want to thank all of those who worked hard one way or the other.
Okay.
It's just that Silver City just not quite ready for this at this time.
Yeah.
So, okay. Next item on the agenda. Help me out here, Ann, if I'm mixed up, because we've been switching all around. Is it new business 11D? Okay. Next item on the agenda is 11B, the approval/disapproval of bid number 15/16-11, sale of property. Mr. Brown?
Mayor and Council, we received 2 bids for this property, which is the old Chinese restaurant on Pope. One was for $12,000 and the other was from Dave Baker for $30,000.01. So it's staff's recommendation that we award the bid to Dave Baker, who we have, I've negotiated a contract with already, which is included in the agreement. So with that, do you have any questions?
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Brown? Councilor Bedison?
Thank you, Mayor. So this contract that has been appended to what we have, has been negotiated and is something that Mr. Baker is willing to enter into.
Yes, as of easier. Yes, as of the last time we talked.
I just wanted to make sure, that's all. But thank you for doing that.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Kano?
I move to approve of bid number 15/16-11, sale of property to Mr. Dave Baker in the amount of $30,000.01. Is that correct?
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Councilor Ray? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 11C, the approval/disapproval of Resolution 2016-28, a resolution amending the approval and adopted budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2016 through July 30, 2017, and for municipal purpose in the town of Silver City, New Mexico, transferring and appropriating funds thereof. Mr. Brown?
This is, okay. The local, DFA will not approve a budget that has any funds that end up in a negative balance. You cannot have overspend any fund. The DFA does not approve of any of those budgets. But through the year, we have to provide quarterly reports, which do not have to be approved by you, but we have to provide them on a quarterly basis. The only one that has to be approved by you is the final one, which is then becomes the beginning balance for the next budget year. Well, they changed the rules so that now that every quarter that we submit our quarterly report, now we can't have any negative balances. So because most of our grants are reimbursable grants, so we pay up front, and then the state or other governmental agencies reimburse us for the grant, we do end up with negative balances in some cases. So what they are requiring that we do now is that we pass a budget adjustment which transfers money to the negative fund, the fund with negative balance, and also approves that we transfer those funds back after we submit the report. It's being very blunt, the most stupid thing I've ever seen in my life. They're asking us to make our books look fake and then put them back after we report it to them. But that's what they're requiring us, and they didn't finally tell us until Thursday, like around noon or sometime like that. So we're going to have to do this every quarter now, and they won't accept the report if we have negative balances.
Any questions for Mr. Brown? Councilor Edison?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm trying to put this politely, a question to you. Is there been any pushback by, I guess what I'm having a hard time with is not all municipalities have reserves like we do to be able to move the money and then put it back.
Really, I don't know if there's been any pushback because they didn't tell anybody till Thursday, and you have to have the report in by the 31st. So nobody's had time to push back.
So this is it's not just for municipalities, it's for every governmental...
Yes, every governmental entity that reports to the FA.
I will bring this up as an issue at the joint New Mexico Municipal League, New Mexico Association of Counties Executive Committee's meeting that comes up next week.
I would appreciate that because it is an internal policy. It is not it's an internal policy because it's not a requirement of the state constitution or legislation. They cannot approve a budget with negative balances. They are not approving our budget right now. We are reporting the status of our budget with the quarterly report.
Okay.
But it's an internal policy that they have.
How does that mesh with the fact that the state is...
$220 million in the red.
And we have how much that we're moving around?
We're moving $60,000.
Wow. Okay. I guess I'm having a hard time with this, and I think it's concerning that internal policies are developed that are silly. I don't know how else to put it. It's silly. Because I don't know what it does, and how long does it take us sometimes to be reimbursed by the state or other agency?
There used to be times where we've gone up to a year.
That's what I thought.
Without getting reimbursed.
I thought one time we went up to 18 months almost.
Yeah, there was one time, you're right, 18 months. Most of the time, now they've been quicker. We've got one from the ISC, the meter grant, that we've been waiting about 6 months. That's the longest one right now. And actually, I think that's the one that sort of put us in the bind right now, because we had other balances in the capital funds that offset most of that, so...
Okay. Well, thank you, and I will, Mr. Mayor, carry that forward at the meeting next week.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Amon Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess this will be the first of many. I move to approve resolution number 2016-28, a resolution amending the approved and adopted budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017, and for municipal purpose in the town of Silver City, New Mexico, transferring and appropriating funds thereof.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Bedison?
I second the motion as stated.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilman Amon Smith?
We are baffled by the maneuvers of our state agency, which seems to be requiring something that they create to be disguised.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please, Ann.
Councilor Edison? Aye. Councilor Amon Smith? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Kano? Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So this concludes the business of the town of Silver City. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Edison?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Councilman Amon Smith?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. This meeting is adjourned.